Hey, this is your host, Kofi Thompson here, and welcome to another episode of Breaking the Glass Ceiling. I am super excited to have one of my friends and clients, Jeremy Diaz, on the show today. So, if you guys don't know Jeremy, his life has been one of service, dedication, and a pursuit of varied interests. As a volunteer firefighter, he commits himself to protecting and serving his community. He's also a veteran of both the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Air Force, where he embraced the values of patriotism and resilience. While he was serving, he attained a degree in law enforcement technology and then used those skills he gained to serve as the cornerstone in his entrepreneurial journey he started in 2020. He's not breaking barriers. Jeremy enjoys spending time with his three wonderful kids and wife and diving into his fascination of mechanical wonders like planes, trains, and automobiles. Man, that's awesome. I feel like that's a guy thing. I definitely have like a wonder of like, machines, cars, planes. I don't know, I've always just found it to be pretty cool. That's awesome. So Jeremy also strives to embody a spirit of continuous learning, bravery, and commitment in his personal and professional life by embracing challenges, pursuing his passions, and making a meaningful impact where he can. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thanks, Kofi, man. I'm glad to be here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm excited to dive in. I've throughout I think it's maybe going even on 2 years now that we've known each other. Like, I really just saw you.
Yeah, it's like
About 2 years now?
about 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man. It feels like time flies. I have to say. Um,
it does. It really does. It's scary.
right? Man, and throughout this journey, I've just seen that you've like, there's always had this like, amazing amount of drive and perseverance, and you've always had big goals, and like we've dived into so many different, kind of esoteric conversations. So I'm glad we're here today.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad to be here as well. It's our conversations that we've had are awesome, and I really enjoy talking to you and learning.
Yeah, man, we are both breaking barriers. So I'm curious. So like, even though I've never, been in the military, I do hold like a vast amount of respect and admiration for people that have, served our country because like, I mean, you guys go through like so much like rigorous training. You have to, you know, challenge so many different aspects of yourself to go through an organization, be a part of an organization like that. So I'm like curious, like, were there any values or lessons that you learned in your service that you still continue to shape your life up to this point?
Yes, absolutely. Um, it's it's definitely extremely complex, um,
Mm,
and everybody's experience will vary, and it
mm,
definitely depends on the branch that you serve or have served in. So I
mhm,
started out in the Marine Corps. I didn't know really which one I wanted. I was strongly leaning toward the Army,
mhm,
uh, and I think what did it is watching my brother graduate from the Marine Corps boot camp, and
mm.
that switched my whole mindset to becoming a Marine. So that's what I decided to do. And from the beginning, you learn a vast amount of knowledge, and if you let it when you're in the, especially also in the beginning, but not only in the beginning in boot camp, right? Everybody calls it boot camp, 12 weeks of like your initial training. But if you
Mhm.
let it throughout your phases of training to when you're actually a Marine, and once you hit the reserves or once you hit the fleet, if
Yeah.
you let that knowledge and you challenge yourself and you really get out of it what you put into it as well, right? So there are opportunities for taking even classes out in town at community colleges or
Yeah.
universities that you could do side by side while you're serving. But the biggest things that you will learn is just drive. You'll be challenged to a point where you really won't be challenged in other areas. Leadership, I would say, is the biggest that I've been
Mm.
able to bring to my civilian career. Even while working at a job for a company, but even more so is important when you're on your own as a self-employed entrepreneur or business owner or whatever you decide to do.
Absolutely.
um, but leadership as a whole, and not only just like a lot of people will say like that they were a leader or they that you want to be a boss, but it takes an extreme amount of learning and
Yeah,
knowledge to become to become a great leader. Not just say like, oh, you're a leader, or just because you're in a leadership role doesn't mean you're a great leader. I would say
absolutely.
that's the best thing I got out of it for sure, was the leadership and confidence, as
Mm.
well as vast amount of confidence building as you grow. From the day I was a recruit to the day I became a sergeant, it's a huge transformation that you go through. But everybody's situation is different. I was in the reserves and I did some active duty time in the reserves as well. So my
Mm. Mhm.
experience might not be the same as somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
It varies greatly. Mine's probably somewhere right in the middle where, sometimes I really loved it, sometimes I really hated it. Some people will just really hate it, and some people, it just really varies.
No, that totally makes sense. Wow. And yeah, I think that's, so important to mention because, especially the leadership aspect, a lot of people, talk about, hey, I want to be a boss, I want to be a leader, I want to be a CEO. And they
Right.
kind of just say it as like if it's just something you just like, hop in to start doing. But there's a lot of lessons, there's a lot of skills you need to learn. And, you
Yes.
know, those are the things you don't see on the outside, right? And even if you're a high performer, like becoming a leader is a whole nother side of the story there. Like that's something that I realized, like starting my own practice, like, okay, like, I may be able to motivate myself, but then how do I motivate others? How do I, you know, work well with others? How do I make sure that, I'm delegating? There's all these different things that like, just because you can be a star player on the team doesn't necessarily mean those are going to be the same skills that you can apply to lead that team and, win
Yep.
championships.
It takes
So,
experience.
mhm, yeah.
It takes
So
experience.
are there like maybe like aspects of like just in regards to leadership, are there things that you feel like, man, like I didn't realize I had to build this skill when I first started like my business? Or was there like any type of like epiphany you learned, or like something you're like, okay, this is something I really had to work on within my leadership to progress to the point of where you're at today?
So when you're working um, for somebody else, it kind of gets laid out for you. It's like, this is where you're
Hmm.
supposed to show up. This is the time you're supposed to show up at.
Mhm.
This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is and who the boss is, or that leader is, kind of gauge on how difficult your job or your tasks are going to be. So what I've learned that I definitely needed to improve on, and I still do, is when you don't have that person or people that are above you, that you have to go from being held accountable to
Mm-hmm.
holding yourself accountable. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So doing what you're supposed to do, not procrastinating, staying organized, managing your time.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that if you are not good at them on your regular 40-hour week or as a student, your flaws are going to show up even more so when you're out on your own and you have to hold yourself accountable,
Yeah.
day out. And especially, I've done it. I'm not going to say that I haven't done it. Is when I got to be at the house, and I want to get working on the floor early. I'm working on the floor on a project, whatever it is. It's happened to me before, or a bathroom, and I want to get there early. Start working on the floor early. The alarm goes off. I'm the boss. I can take a little bit of extra time
Oh yeah.
and extra 30 minutes, whatever. So you really have to adapt and overcome,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, even more 10x than whatever you were experiencing before, at your job or as a student.
Mm.
Because you're going to be wearing a lot more hats. that you're going to be responsible for those roles, and you're going to be really having to hold yourself accountable to a lot. And that's definitely something that I learned and I'm
Yeah.
now learning to continuously improve. I had multiple paths, and even like offers that I had turned down, and through experience they just became less attractive. And it's kind of caveating what we are talking about before, is it really takes experience. You want to go and you want to experience things, because you don't know you're passionate about it. And I came to realize this through experience, is you might think you're passionate about something,
Mm-hmm.
but until you experience it day in and day out, that could easily change from being what you thought you were passionate about to it's just an interest, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to choose something that you're interested in and then do it every day. And then it'll become a passion, because that happened to me several times. I was a volunteer firefighter. I thought I was going to be a career fireman after volunteering as a firefighter. I was like, join the Marine Corps. I want to be a Marine the rest of my life. I became a Marine.
Mm.
Didn't want to do that anymore because I experienced it, and I didn't want to be an serve active duty in the military. I had other ideas about family and whatnot, and it's extremely difficult to raise a family, and there are other aspects to that too as well. But they really you want to experience things to see if that's what you want to do, for the rest of your life, and you won't know it unless you experience it. Um, I really think that what inspired me was the freedom.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
since kid, since I was a kid, I always had interest in doing my own thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first business I started was in my garage with a
Awesome.
friend I grew up with, and we just put up a sign, and we were like, trying to do a little bike shop in my dad's garage to fix people's bikes, change their tubes and their tires. And
Really?
this was, back, yeah, this was back when we didn't have, I don't even think the first original Xbox had come out yet. I think only Sega and like the original Nintendos were around and whatnot before all the craziness and smartphones and stuff that we have
Yeah.
today.
That's
And we
interesting.
were outside every day riding bikes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just always wanted to go that direction.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But you know how it is when you have people that influence you to take the safer routes, right? So after experiencing a little bit of taking safer routes, and I was going down the path of doing NYPD or Border Patrol, I actually went through both of those processes and then ended up not wanting to go that route. For me, it really just comes down to timing.
Yeah.
And I just hit a point where after I had finished my last set of active duty orders and I had moved to Arizona, and I was discussing it with my wife about an idea I had, because I first started out in marketing, actually
Mm.
social media marketing. I saw an advertisement from Ty Lopez.
Oh, okay.
A lot of
Yeah.
people a lot of people know him as a big social media influencer or entrepreneur. And after seeing his ads a couple times, one day I watched his ad. I think it brought me to his website, and I watched the video from start to finish. And I was like, "Eff it, I'm gonna do it." I was like, "This seems like a pretty good idea. It's something that is a problem that needs to be solved. There are plenty of businesses out there that
Mm-hmm.
need marketing and whatnot." So I rolled with it, and that's really how I got started. I was just like, I, it wasn't the greatest idea. If I were to go back and do it again, I wouldn't quit my job, which is pretty much exactly what I did. I was like, I quit, I'm done, and I just became self-employed right there on the spot. But
Mm.
that's what did it for me. Was just I was in that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the path I want to pivot to, because I was very young. It's just what I wanted to do, and I
Yeah.
ended up going down all these different paths just to go back down
And
my original path from when I was a kid. Of wanting to do my own thing.
that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that because, I also like, started like a couple little businesses when I was younger. And it's funny how like a lot of people that are entrepreneurs usually kind of have that mindset, growing up. But then, you go through school, you go through all these different things, and you're given all these different ideas for what should be following or the path you should go, and then you may end up
Right.
veering, but then you kind of come back to it. So that's really cool. And one thing that I think is like so that oftentimes a lot of people miss that look at maybe entrepreneurs or people that are like very high performing and like very ambitious. You mentioned freedom. Like I found that like for myself and a lot of people that I know, like it's not about like building like a massive amount of wealth and just having all this money or doing all these things. A lot of time, it really just comes down to being free. Like, being able to have that freedom to say, hey, like I can choose to spend my time how I want it. I can choose to help the people I want to help, pour into the relationships that I have in my life and not be restricted by, someone saying you got to be here at this certain time or this is how much you're worth for these hours you're putting in or something along those lines. Like, I think that's I mean, what I find to be really similar for a lot of different people that follow that path of entrepreneurship. So, I'm curious, like, a lot of people when they want to start, investing in real estate, starting a business, or even just investing in like securities, maybe they're just like they haven't even started doing any type of things that can help them grow their wealth. They oftentimes, may face obstacles and they may be mental obstacles like, oh man, like I'm not sure if I can do this. Like I don't, you know, uh, or there's all these different things that are keeping me from doing it. Like I got to support my family, so I can't go out and take that risk, or there's no one there to teach me, things like that. And I feel like, I mean, most often, usually what I find is people feel like they can't support themselves, if they went into an entrepreneurial journey. Um, they feel like they don't have the right amount of people, or they don't have anyone around them to teach them what to do, things like that. So like, I mean, what advice would you have for someone that's in that position that's like, wanting to start, but is like, kind of coming up with all those, kind of more so generic excuses? What are some ways that you overcame that, maybe some of those limiting beliefs as you started?
Man, yeah, you hit it on the money with a lot. Just just hearing you say that gives me making me remember of all those lessons that I learned. It's pretty much what it is. It's like for me, I just winged it, right? And I've been
Yeah.
learning lessons as I've been going. But for someone who's on the fence, like you said, it could be any reason, finances, uh, you're stuck on that you're just blocking yourself mentally,
Hmm.
fear, whatever it is preparation and planning is going to be your best friend. Um,
Hmm.
even if it takes a year, right? You can make a goal and for a whole year do the planning and preparation. And like we were talking about before, with when it comes to books and self education, 100%
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
if you don't have that, multimillionaire or that successful entrepreneur or that billionaire, who, if you were to think of somebody around you, that could be a mentor, whoever it is, if you don't have that person, that ability, definitely attempt to go out there and find a mentor in the space or at the caliber that you're looking at achieving. Because having a mentor would definitely help. Otherwise, self education, for sure, is going to be your best friend, to plan and prepare everything, like
Yeah.
literally everything, down to your motto, right? Down to your core values, and whatever space you decide to jump into, because the better you plan and prepare, the more comfortable you're gonna feel about making that move, because it is everybody. I think a vast amount of people are kind of twisted a little bit from like
Hmm.
seeing entrepreneurs on Instagram, seeing the good life, right?
Yeah.
Lambos and private jets and all that.
Hmm.
I can't really comment on, some of them are fake, some of them are real,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
that's not what the life of an entrepreneur is all about. It's you are going to suffer definitely,
Oh yeah.
um, a lot, a lot of times, unless you're getting started with somebody backing you from family or you have capital, to get started. You're going to suffer, and you have to prepare, plan and prepare, and that's why you'll be more comfortable with that suffering. Down like when I bought my first house, I sold my car, one of my favorite cars. I sold it. So you
Hmm.
might have to downsize. You're gonna have to cut back. You're gonna have to do things that might be uncomfortable, but you know, short term you're gonna suffer, but it's a long term gain that you're gonna have if you can put off for a little while.
Mm.
Certain things you want to buy, or even
Yeah.
even a house. I mean, because I'm still going through it too. It could take anywhere from 1 to 10 years to get where you want to get, depending on the backing that you have and the capital that you have. And that really doesn't matter what space you want to get into. You be opening up a coffee shop,
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
in real selling insurance, selling
Hmm.
whatever that you interested in getting into. But if I was to go back and do it again, definitely planning and preparation, um, and trying to get a team started of support, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be letting people know around you, like your family and friends, to see maybe if they're interested in getting in with you. It could be a difficult thing. That's a whole nother topic for another conversation. Is
Yeah.
working with friends and family, but they're definitely important in the beginning for support. If you run into a really bad situation, some hard times, it could be your best support method. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
around,
that's absolutely so true. Yeah. Like, what I've found, especially, as you've said, like, you know, we see all these different like gurus, all these different people out there that are, hey, like, I'm, so and so, I've done this, and I've achieved all these great things. And then we are also obsessed with this like idea of like self-made, right? And a lot of people feel
yep,
like they have to go through and just like push and do all these things on your own. But like having a support system as an entrepreneur is so important. Like if you're, I mean, in life, it is important to have a support system. It is important to have people that like share values with you that can like help you and grow. And, yeah, there's generally going to be some time where you may be like working on things on your own, but either finding people that, can help you learn, or you can learn from them as mentors or coaches, or people that are like also in a similar space and like on a similar path as you, so you guys can be like your each other's like cheerleaders essentially, is just so so important there. So I think that's like a lot of things that these are just little things that people don't really oftentimes think about. And then also, yeah, that planning aspect too. Like, as a financial planner, I always tell everyone, like, have a plan. That's extremely important. But I also want to mention, on the other side of that, that like, you want to create a plan, but then you also have to just enact that plan and actually do it. Because I believe like part of the entrepreneurship journey is like the best metaphor I heard for it is like you're building an airplane while it's in the air. Like you got to start like flying that thing. You got to go up there. You're gonna take up on the runway. You may not have all the stuff like put together, but you're gonna go up in the air and you're gonna continue to work and refine on the things because like so many people just don't start. And like if you like you can take all the theory, but if you don't actually put anything to practice, like you're not really gonna learn the lessons. And part of you have to have this like I love how you said it. You just had to wing it. And, you just had to have this ability to say, hey, like, I know what I know. Now I'm going to go out there. And then I'm going to learn more. There's going to be lessons. I'm not going to do it perfectly, but I'm going to start. And when you
yep,
start, that's the first step to actually, making that progress there. So I think that's so, so important. So like, you mentioned like, I believe it was like sacrifices and like, being able to like give up things. So, what do you feel like the biggest reasons like people fail, in the early stages in business? are, investing in real estate, things like that? Is it like, maybe due to the fact that they're not taking those sacrifices or giving up things, or do you feel like there's other things in addition to that play into their failure?
For sure. I definitely think that it varies on many levels. I think a lot of times it'll come down to the inability to live below your means and even lower than that. Because unless you have somebody with a good amount of capital, like a family member or a friend, and I mean, that's pretty much what my wife and I did. We literally sold our house and sacrificed, our home, our primary residence to use that equity to get started with our journey.
That's amazing.
And and if you're not willing, I'm not saying that you have to make that sacrifice, but if you're not willing to make cuts and make
Mm-hmm.
those certain sacrifices in the beginning, right? That you have to prolong and put off that instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot to do with why people, if you're working in a dual income house and maybe you're both making 70K each or 100K each or whatever the case might be, is once it's there on paper and you look at it, that initial fear of losing that 70K from one of you or that 100K from one person could definitely hold that decision back and put it off and put it off. And like you said, if you get stuck in that planning phase and you never take action and you never execute, it'll never happen. I mean, even if you're doing it by yourself, you could
Yeah.
be living out in an you're living out in an apartment, or if you're squared away and
Mm-hmm.
you're living a life to get a house on your own without being married or having a partner,
Yeah.
to be willing to let go of that apartment, maybe move back in with your parents. You know what I mean? Or let go, leave the apartment or sell the house
Mm-hmm.
to move back in, those necessary cuts. I think that has a lot to do with why many people never get out of that, planning phase or that analytical phase where they're just constantly analyzing the decision,
Yeah.
and you get stuck in that feedback loop, and
Analysis
you never take
paralysis.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's such an important piece you mentioned. Like, I feel like oftentimes when people, may think about starting the journey or they start, like they're oftentimes asking themselves, like, what do I want to gain from this, right? I think an even better question is like, what are you willing to give up for this?
Yep.
Because there are so many things that like are so many short-term sacrifices you have to make in order for long-term success. And that's not just in finances or business. It's like the same thing with like working out. Like I am a huge athlete, and like I really pride myself on like keeping in shape even though I'm not playing sports. And, some people may look at me like, oh, wow, like, you're so lucky that have a six pack and you're able to do all these things. I'm like, okay, like I also get up at like 5, 6 a.m. and I work out for like an hour and a half. And, all not things
Hard.
I love doing, right? But it's like
You know
those
what it takes.
yeah, it's you got to make sacrifices. And I feel like, if you can almost like, you know, in a way, like, I wouldn't say like fall in love because I think it's pretty hard to fall in love with like the process or the sacrifices you have to make, but really like desensitize yourself from it. And especially when you're thinking about like shifting your lifestyle, I think this is really good for to understand. But like, what I realized for a lot of people is that they oftentimes will tie their identity to what they have in life. So
Mm.
they get their house and they're now the person with the 3,000 square foot house. They get the Porsche 911 and now the person with the Porsche 911. They're eating out at five-star restaurants, every single day. And they're now the person that, indulges in fine dining. And they do that and they're like, that becomes like so much of a part of them that they're like, any interruption to that, they're like, no, like I can't give this up. There's no possible way. And if you're tying all those external things in life so much to your identity, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to make those sacrifices. It's gonna be really hard. But I feel like when you're able to like ground yourself in like your values and your family and like, that future goal you have, you know, it becomes a lot easier to say, hey, like, these things are just temporary. Like, this is not me or my life. There's so much more.
Absolutely.
Thinking
I
that.
think, and I brought that up for a good reason, is because that was almost, I didn't have the ability to flaunt it like that, getting a Porsche, but um,
Yeah.
I my wife have a nice house, and that became like a part of us. Like we were really prideful about it, and we spent a crap ton of money furnishing, and
Mm,
um, it just becomes comfortable, right? Like life is about comfort.
yeah.
Most people are not willing to put themselves through discomfort in their life because they don't want to, right? Or they don't have what it takes to the discipline or
Hmm.
whatever it might be. But you really can, if even if you think you don't, you really can do it.
Yeah.
Um, Matter of putting definitely your mind to it and not quitting. And that was definitely us. We were, in a sense, like my one of my favorite content creators, Kong. He's a wholesaler, and he's trying to look rich before you get rich, right?
Mm, hmm.
Spending money on items or brands that might show status when you're living paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm.
And it's kind of a reality check, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind. You got to be okay with not caring what other people think, not
Yeah.
caring like what you drive, or the brand of car. Like, I'll drive a Toyota or a Honda any day of the week, you know what I mean? And that's pretty much what what I've always been rolling in.
Yeah.
And until like you make it, you have to not, I guess, and to say you're lying to yourself, but you're also lying to the people who are close to you, because who
Yeah.
are close around you really know what's up,
Absolutely.
but
There's this really great, like it was like a post I saw, and it's like, rich people stay rich by acting poor, and poor people stay poor by acting rich. Yeah.
yeah,
So, man, I'm like curious, like how do you um I guess keep the scarcity mindset from like creeping in, or like are there any ways or like kind of practices you do to kind of like stay grounded, you know, even, because I feel like, it takes like 10 years, frankly, at least for most people to kind of really get like a stable base as like an entrepreneur and really have more consistency, have more predictability. So like, how do you kind of keep like the scarcity mindset from creeping in so you can continue making like, choices, sometimes taking on risk, you know, continue on your journey? Is it like, do you have practices, or is it like really just like how you operate in your relationship with your wife, and is she like your support system? I'm curious.
it is like it is a journey that is like unlike anything else, with the level of stress that you will go through.
Hmm.
um if you're all in,
I have
um
new gray hair every day.
yeah. you're if you're all in, and since the beginning, I've been all in, high risk, you will experience high level of stress. And like you said, you hit it on the money. And I'm a firm believer in finding that partner that you're going to be able to build your empire with,
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to build it on your own. And I believe it was in Think or Grow Rich that I had learned this, and it kind of blew my mind, that there are many successful people, successful like entrepreneurs back from when, like the United States was getting started, like J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller. When you look into all these huge business moguls, you will see that their significant other, their wife, was a big part of that,
Mm.
huge part of that, and that support that you have from your significant other is going to be huge. And we talk about pretty much everything.
So
Um,
how do you guys like stay on
with
like the same page? Is it like just communication, consistency, like with that sharing kind of where you guys are? Like, are there specific things you guys may do, or is it just you guys have always just been really great like communicating with each other?
I definitely think it's communication. My wife is also a Marine, so we connect very well when it comes to communication for planning, and it also just comes down to we start the journey together.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So the roadmap is planned out by the both of us. So we're both on the same page as far as the goal, for the quarter. Every deal that we're underwriting and looking at, plans to streamline certain things, picking out job materials. It really, the ideas when you're bouncing them back and forth with somebody else who is on the same page and has that same amount of that height, that energy, that motivation, it really has no limits to the amount of ideas you can come up with and execute on them.
Yeah.
And we really both are passionate about this. Started out as an interest, and now it really has become a passion for us both. And we're walking down the path together. So we lean on each other when it comes to pretty much almost every aspect of our journey so far.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, I think that's so important, like having shared goals and, again, it comes back to that support system, like, because there are things that we're not all extremely skilled at. There are times where we need, to, just like talk, get things out, and, having someone else to console with and talk about the things are just, so, again, so valuable. So I really appreciate that, man. There's so many things that I want to also delve into. So, we're gonna probably have to have episode two. But I love,
Absolutely.
as we're wrapping up here, Jeremy. There's a question I always love to ask, and so imagine that you're getting to the end of your life, and you know here your kids are all grown up, they're living life and they're, creating their own paths. So, what are maybe three lessons that you would leave to them, or pieces of advice that you've learned in your life that you would like to pass off to them?
Wow, that's crazy when you said my kids all grown up. I would say enjoy your time.
Mm,
Like,
mm-hmm,
time is the most important, right? So when we're talking about freedom, freedom, the whole point of this is to create freedom of your time,
mm-hmm,
right? Because that's the most important commodity. Yes, the success is cool, the money is cool, and your goal, whatever your goal is, like if your goal is to be rich, that's cool. But the most important thing is through your journey, through your endeavor, and through all that sacrifice is going to be at the end of the tunnel creating time for your life, because we only have one life to live. So whatever you decide to do, make sure you enjoy your time. My kids don't have to I'm going to be giving them real estate and whatnot for them to and teach them. But it's kind of like when you're a kid. I don't know if you ever asked this. I think it was in middle school. It's like if you had all the money, in the world, if you were rich, what would you want to do? You
mm-hmm,
know what I mean? If money wasn't an issue, what would you want to be? So they could do whatever they want, but I definitely want them to do something that they'll be able to enjoy their time, whether it be especially with family, especially. So you never want to miss out a lot of family time and constantly be missing out that family time because of work or your career or your business, because you can never get that time back.
mm,
Missing holiday, missing the first birthday, second birthday, or those
yeah.
early years or whatever the case.
Enjoy your time. Okay.
Yeah, enjoy your time. The second would be gain the experience
Mm,
before moving up in anything. Kind of piggybacking on what we were saying before. A lot of people they want to be a leader. They want to be a supervisor or a manager
Mhm.
or a business owner, but they don't have any experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible if you work hard enough that you can achieve success without having experience,
Hmm.
but it's gonna hold a lot more weight if you experience some life before you just decide that
Absolutely.
you want, move up in a company or be your own business owner.
Hmm.
Definitely gain to have that experience under your belt. um, Third one would be to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
That would probably that would be my third one. Invest in real estate. um,
Yes.
and like I said, I'm going to, I'm already my 11-year-old. I'm already teaching her, and we do a lot of things on her whiteboard in her room about like different scenarios. Doing the Burr method on a property, and showing
Really?
her how physically buying a house. Not in too much detail, like how it works. You know, owning it for the rest of your life and making the rental income, and just doing it over and over and over again. So, and teaching her like the value of money as well. That's super important. We try and teach her that. So it would be
That's amazing. Yeah.
enjoy your time, get some experience before you want to, go out there barking and being a leader, and then invest in real estate.
I like it. I like it. Awesome. So, what are the best ways to reach out and connect with you, Jeremy? In case people have questions, want to know more about your journey, how you're able to do the things that you did. What are the best ways to reach out and connect?
Uh, I have an open door. I'm with text, phone calls, emails. I'm always setting up phone calls with people that reach out and whatnot, or people that get referred to me. So
Cool.
I'm pretty much door for any of the above.
Okay. Awesome. What's the best email or website for people to find your contact info or reach out?
So
Or
my email is at ejdiaz at tdhomesus.com. That's my email. Ejdiaz at tdhomesus.com.
awesome. Awesome. I like it. Well, guys, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. Jeremy is taking off and he's flying high, so you don't want to miss this ride. Man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Jeremy. Like, I remember we met from I think it was Northwestern Mutual, and you'd like put in like a call, and like now we've been working together, and
That
you're
was from Google.
yeah, and I think it's, funny how our paths cross, man, but I'm super excited to, you know, be with you in your journey and continue to see the great things you achieve and, root you on, as you do this stuff and help you out any way I can.
I
Awesome.
really appreciate you having me. I think there was so much we missed. I can't wait to talk more. And
Yeah, we're gonna be diving in.
it's always deep.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, we will see you guys soon on the next episode of Breaking the Glass Ceiling.